corruption itself is a cancerous tumor that has eaten into the very fabric of our existence.
It is commonsensical and logical that if it takes a man with 2 legs.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Nigerian justice system has failed the common man.
And the reason why that girl presents her body to that lecturer for malpractice is because she is fully aware.
And in our own education system, corruption is a culture. How can bribery not be a way of life?
Hello and welcome to the Expression Debates, brought to you by Youngsters Foundation with support from DFID Nigeria and other partners. This youth initiative is designed to increase the voice of youth and encourage their active participation in contemporary national issues. My name is Divine Prince Abbey, and joining me today is
Mariam Junaidu, and I am happy that you could join us on today's episode, which promises to be fun and engaging. It's been a battle of brains, wits and oratory as 32 audacious undergraduate teams from over 20 tertiary institutions in Nigeria emerged from the regional auditions in Enugu, Lagos and Abuja to get to this grand finale that we have just 8 teams left and standing.
Wow.
It's been quite a journey.
It has been quite a journey. We have seen 32 teams battle all through the elimination series into the semi-finals, where we had 16 teams, and now it's the finals where we have just 8 teams left standing. And it has been quite an emotional journey too, because we have seen such amazing teams also crash along the way. But this goes to just one team. 500,000 naira goes to the winner, and 300,000 naira to the second winner, and the third prize is 200,000 naira.
You know, for that amount of money, it's not going to be a bad idea to be a part of this competition.
Wow, you can say that again. I think we should join.
We
We'll
have
to go back to school, or they have to organize something for graduates, right?
Yes, I agree. Anyways, today promises to be worth your time as viewers get to win stuffs too. We'll go on a short break now, and when we return, we'll give you the highlight of today's package. Stay on this channel.
Welcome back. This is still the Expression Debates, brought to you by Youngsters Foundation with support from DFID Nigeria and other partners. This youth initiative is designed to increase the voice of youth and encourage their active participation in contemporary national issues. So Miriam, what do we have for our amazing audience today?
We have a lot of exciting stuff for you all. 2 teams are going to be debating on the topic, can Nigeria win the fight against corruption in one generation? So since this is the grand finale, each team has just one chance, just one, to grab that prize money. First prize, 500,000 naira. Second, 300,000 naira. And third, 200,000 naira. You know I'm not going to get used to saying that.
Yes, I don't think I'm going to get used to saying that either. This is going to be really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to this showdown. But you as a viewer at home, you're not left out, because you can join in our weekly quiz and stand a chance of winning some really cool prizes. You can win recharge cards, and also you can join our campaign, I Choose Integrity, and win other cool prizes.
To participate and win, log on to our website on the screen or check us out on our social media platforms for more information.
So the topic for today's debate: can Nigeria win the fight against corruption in one generation? What do you think about that, Miriam? Do you think we can actually win the fight?
I think it's
corruption?
possible.
You think so?
Of course.
It's
I
going
think
to be a
it's
difficult one, though.
I mean, fighting corruption, it starts with you and I. So if you make up your mind today, I mean, but we are
to make up their minds. That's going to be a tough one all the same.
But we are not debaters,
We're
so I'm sure our debaters will shed more light on that.
Hopefully.
But before we go to the debate arena, let's just go to the streets and see what Nigerians have to say about this. We'll be right back.
Your name, sir?
Ernest Chijoke.
Okay, sir. Do you think Nigeria can fight corruption in one generation?
No, they cannot. There's no way.
Why do you do that?
The corruption has been there. Those who claim they are fighting corruption are the corrupt people. That the people corrupt. How do you broadcast corruption? The more you are broadcasting, people want to know what is actually a corruption. Even children want to know what is that corruption.
So we cannot fight corruption in one generation.
There is nowhere.
Okay. Now,
With these people now, they cannot do anything.
There's nothing impossible before God. With God, everything is possible. But if you take a look at things happening in this country, now, it's by grace of God.
Yes, it's possible. This government, they are trying their own, best to, kind of end corruption. But, it's not going to be easy. As you can see, the corruption is fighting back. But whichever way is possible, it's possible. It's all about the mindset of Nigerians. That's all.
Wow, so some very, very interesting views from Nigerians there. Of course, they always have something to say. Some very, although I accept, well, let me say I agree with some of the opinions, some of them not so much, but they're not the debaters. We're going to hear from the debaters themselves, see how they will debate for and against this motion. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, so for today, we'll be having Team Harvey from the University of Ibadan and Team New Mind from Nnamdi Azikiwe University.
According to Cornell's English Dictionary, a generation is a period of time, usually considered to be about 30 period of years. So, firstly, in an article titled Poverty plus Greed equals Corruption, published by Vanguard in May 2014, two things are the cause of corruption in Nigeria: greed and poverty. So, the first question is, can Nigeria win the fight against poverty and greed in about 30 years? Yes, we can. It is trite knowledge that a hungry man tends to be a greedy man. So, the best way to preemptively attack both issues is by providing him with food via job employment. According to World Economic Forum, Denmark is in 2015 the most transparent country. In the same Denmark, the rate of unemployment is 4.3%, as reported by Trading Economics. Therefore, we see that there is a reasonable connection between widespread employment and curbing corruption. However, Nigeria is already on this path. As reported by leadership.org in October 2017, Central Bank of Nigeria released about 43.92 billion naira to over 200,000 farmers and is still on the verge of creating about 360,000 more jobs in another field. This is just CBN, a sector. How much more what could be done in about 30 years by all other sectors, including maritime, oil and gas, the government as a whole, and even entrepreneurship, which is fastly rising. Secondly, one of the hallmarks of lawmaking is the fact that it is the most important tool in nation development. This makes the National Assembly important in the fight against corruption. So, the next question is, can Nigeria make efficient laws in about 30 years? Yes, we can. According to Forbes in 2016, Singapore is one of the global least corrupt countries in the world. Regarding this, the Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, noted that one of the major factors that led to such achievement is the enactment of the Prevention of Corruption Act, as reported by Straits Times in 2016. The interesting part about this act is that it puts the burden of proof on the alleged individual to show that his money is legal. Also, the act provides for extraterritorial jurisdiction, such that the acts of Singaporeans overseas are treated the same as those within the country. However, Nigeria is already also on this path, as it has been able to pass the whistleblowing policy, the Not Too Young to Run bill, and equip the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Thus, all Nigeria is left to do is follow suit in the implementation of such acts as PCA in Singapore. And since it is certain that it does not take years, to pass bills into laws, we can be sure that in one generation, Nigeria will curb corruption. Thirdly, in the 21st century, the best way to change a man's orientation is by means of education. And the way we achieve this is through school. So the third question is, can Nigeria produce adequately oriented individuals in about 30 years? Yes, we can. According to worldatlas.com, Finland is the second most literate country in the world by spending almost 7% of its GDP on education. Consequently, Finland is the second least corrupt country in the world, as reported by Transparency International in 2016. It is in this light that there is clamor for more attention to be put on the education sector in Nigeria currently. One of such clamor is done by ex-Minister of Education, Professor Chinwe Obaja, as reported by Daily Times. it does not stop there. Certain steps are already being taken to reform the curriculum in place so that certain essential things would be included. If these things are included and anti-corruption education is taught in school, then we can be sure that in one generation, Nigeria will be able to produce adequately influential leaders who would not venture into corruption. In the end, today's debate does not ask whether Nigeria can win corruption in this generation or that generation. It simply asks whether corruption can be won in one generation, which could be any generation. And to this, once again, we say, yes, we can. Thank you.
And here to oppose the motion that Nigeria can win the fight against corruption in one generation. Corruption, as we all know, is a malaise that has eaten deep into the fabric of the Nigerian society. What is a generation? A generation is usually regarded as a period of 30 years. Now, this is the first point from my team. We are saying that this generation, which is a period of 30 years, is too small a time to win the fight against corruption. Historical evidence has gone further in proving that the fight against corruption cannot be won in one generation. Singapore, one of the countries that is rated as least corrupt in the world, started its anti-corruption reforms in the year 1871. Singapore was not able to achieve this until the 1990s. Denmark, which is also highly rated as one of the least corrupt countries in the world, started its anti-corruption reforms in the year 1660. Denmark did not achieve a low level of corruption in the country until the year 1829. In fact, 1824 was accorded as the period of endemic embezzlement in the country. So also is Netherlands, which did not take less than 150 years to fight against corruption. The second point is the nature of corruption in Nigeria. Corruption in Nigeria is systemic. It pervades every sector of the economy, politics, business, name it. We are saying that since corruption is systemic, we cannot necessarily fight corruption until the war is taken to affect every sector of the economy. The National Bureau of Statistics, according to a survey, shows that 71% of Nigerians who come in contact with local officials are prone to give bribes. It also shows that an average Nigerian will give 6 bribes in the period of a month. We can now say that given this nature of corruption, unless corruption is being treated from the root by its eradication from all sectors of the economy, the period which constitutes a generation, 30 years in this case, is not enough to win the fight against corruption. Third point is the unity of purpose. United we stand, divided we fight. Where there are varying interests that are in the policy at a given time, one cannot say that the fight against corruption can be won. A study showing media reports revealing the discrepancies between the interests of government and anti-graft agencies and also private individuals in the Halliburton scandal has shown that the government and individuals and indeed anti-graft agencies have showed conflicting interests in this fight against corruption. What we are saying is that youth and other people who should be stakeholders in the fight against corruption are not united in purpose. And without the presence of this unity, one cannot effectively fight corruption. Winning the war against corruption is not something that will happen in a day. And indeed, this is a long-term oriented goal, meaning that 30 years is certainly a short time for a long-term oriented goal as corruption. The fight against corruption is something that will be beneficial to Nigeria in all aspects. It affects you and I as citizens of this country. And in line with the theme for today's Anti-Corruption Day, Worldwide Anti-Corruption Day, which is uniting against corruption to eradicate all forms of corruption in the country, we posit that unity must be achieved if the fight against corruption can be won. Team Opposition is saying that the fight against corruption cannot be won in one generation. Thank you.
If you're just joining us, this is still the Expression Debates brought to you by Young Stars Foundation with support from DFID Nigeria and other partners. This is a youth initiative designed to increase the voice of the youth and encourage their participation in contemporary national issues.
Wow, 8 teams
Yes.
battling and arguing for the star prizes of 500,000 naira, 300,000 naira, and 200,000 naira for the first, second, and third places, respectively. You know, at this point, I think I need to pass my comments.
Go ahead, pass them.
The 2 speakers from each team, they were, I don't want to say 50-50 because obviously one has to be better than the other.
Of course.
But then they were both equally intelligent.
So if you're going to pick,
it's going to be so hard to pick.
I think it's going to be difficult, but I think I'll sway more towards New Mind. I think, you know, she did really, really well. I've seen her journey through the elimination stages, all through the semi-finals, and now she's in the final doing so brilliantly. I'm rooting for her. I think she's going to take this one.
I'm not going to choose, no. I can't do it. Don't do
There
that
you
to
are.
me.
You're sitting on the fence as usual, right?
Can't choose.
Anyway, we're going to find out from the second speakers if they're going to do justice to this topic. Will they do as well as the first speakers have done? We're going to find out shortly.
Judges, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am here to do nothing else but to reiterate our stance that yes, Nigeria can win the fight against corruption in one generation. First, it is important to understand that the concept of corruption expands beyond just politicians and public service holders. Examination malpractice is also a form of corruption because according to the Minister of Education, Malamu Adamu, while speaking in an international summit organized by the West African Examination Council on October 21, 2017, he said, examination malpractice is a form of corruption which the federal government is determined to eradicate from the country. Interestingly, with the advent of technology and other relevant measures, Nigeria is winning the fight against corruption in the educational sector. For example, in Anambra, examination malpractice according to WAEC reduced by 5.6% in 2016 as against the 10.2% in 2011. Also, according to Professor Dibu Ojerinde, the Chief Executive Officer of the Joint Administration Matriculation Board examination, since the adoption of the computer-based test in 2014, examination malpractice has reduced considerably. Judges, if this much can be achieved in so little time, then we can only assert that much more will be achieved in one generation. Second, the expression debate, of which we are all seated here today, is powered by Young Stars Foundation, and they aim to fight corruption by raising the voice of youth in this generation. The UK Aid, headed by the Department for International Development, in tune with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, aim to eradicate poverty before 2030. This is 2017. If this is done, it will also curb corruption, as stated earlier by my first speaker. Judges, these are organizations composed of thousands of individuals who believe the fight against corruption can be won in less than 30 years, which is equivalent to one generation. Vox populi, vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Hence, we can logically infer that even God believes the fight against corruption can be won in one generation. In fact, the Holy Book says, the eyes of the Lord will not behold iniquity for too long. How dare we, my opponent, say the fight against corruption will not be won in one generation? In conclusion, Team Abi remains optimistic in affirmation to the motion that the fight against corruption can be won in one generation. Thank you.
Panel of judges, co-debaters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand on this solid foundation this afternoon to oppose the motion which states that Nigeria can fight corruption in one generation. I'll be walking you down a two-point analysis to buttress my stance. Firstly, corruption is a norm and a culture in Nigeria. Given the intensification of corruption in Nigeria and how corruption has evolved into every segment of this country, we therefore see people that are not corrupt in this country as abnormal. And this leads to the question that as you fight corruption, corruption tends to evolve. That stretches the fight against corruption in Nigeria and making it not a straight win for Nigeria to combat corruption under one generation. Giving you an analysis we carried out under the Faculty of Law, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, our personal research, using the recent concluded Anambra State gubernatorial election, where we analyzed the students on the reason why they voted. 99% of these students based their analysis for voting that they were given 3,500 naira by the APGA candidate. The futures of tomorrow, people who are going to occupy the judiciary tomorrow. How can you tell me that the fight against corruption in one generation can be achieved if our orientation by the so educated people have not changed as much? Secondly, the weakness of the institutional and leadership places in Nigeria. Institutions and leaders are one of the cardinal points to ensure grassroots enhancement and uprootment of corruption in various parastatals in this country. But it has shown a lack of commitment and weakness on the part of our leaders and institutions, because the little changes they have to make in different parastatals seems not to come to pass. How do we think we can combat corruption under one generation? Definitely, you cannot put nothing on something and expect it to stand, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The fight against corruption in one generation is not visible. Let's tell ourselves the truth and fight the cost with a clean heart and a just mind. Thank you.
Wow, that was
Really,
some round.
that was something.
Very, very intellectually stimulating.
That
I'd
was an
say.
actual battle.
An actual battle.
An actual battle.
And wow, I think they even did slightly better than the first speakers, in my opinion. I don't know about you.
They did good.
They did good.
They did good.
They did good. Anyway, we're going to find out from the judges soon.
Yes, but in my opinion, I think Team Harvey should have this.
Team Harvey, wow. It's going to be a tight one, whichever way.
Really?
But this is what you expect a final to be like, right? It's like the Battle of Gladiators, the Clash of the Titans.
But anyway, we are not the judges, so
Yes,
let's
we're not
just
the
go to
judges.
the scoring board and see what the judges have decided. We'll be right back.
Wow, so there you have it. Team
I
Harvey
told you
won.
so.
After all, that's very good. Anyway, congratulations to Team Harvey. Wow. They did very,
They did
very
good.
well. Yeah,
They did
congratulations to them. It was a tight one.
It was a
but
really tight
both
one.
teams did brilliantly. They fought with so much courage, so much passion and enthusiasm. And wow, let's see what happens.
So, of course, esteemed viewers, you are not left out. You can participate in our weekly quiz to stand a chance to win recharge cards, and also join our campaign, I Choose Integrity, to stand a chance to win lots and lots of exciting prizes. To participate, we log on to our website on the screen, or check us out on our social media platforms for more information.
At this point, we just want to say a very big thank you to all our partners. You made this a reality, and for that, we are grateful. So till we come your way, same time, again, same station, next week, remember, we can build a corrupt-free Nigeria
In our lifetime, if you join us.